Hello. Good morning. Good morning, councillors. Welcome to Traffic Speed Limit and Road Closure Hearings Panel. I'd like to declare the meeting open, but before we start, may I indulge you in just a few bits of information. Today is August the 8th, as we all know, which marks the 220th day of the Gregorian calendar. That means there's only 145 days left in the year. Now, did you know that on this day, in 1899, the refrigerator was patented? Now, while some New Zealand homes had domestic refrigerators in the early 1900s, it wasn't until 1910 that refrigerator ownership significantly increased. Significantly increased after the Second World War. Now, the reason why the refrigerator is so important is because we use it when we're making chocolate, and I happen to be an ex-chocolatier, so hence why the association. The last fact I'll leave you with is that the United Nations Charter was signed by President Truman on 1945 in this day. So there you go. All right, so I just thought I'd open the meeting with a little bit of something a little bit different. Right. Hello to my colleagues online. Nice to see you all in Zoom land. We have apologies from Councillor Taylor, who's going to be late. Now I'm saying, it says here there's a full absence from Deputy Mayor Angela O'Leary, but I can see her. So, yeah. Move that one? Yep, okay. So with that in mind, no other apologies. Can I have, I'll move, can I have a seconder? Louise?
I'll second.
Oh, okay. Louise, second, yep. Confirmation of agenda. I'm happy to move. Ewan can second from Zoom land, yep. All those in favour? Aye. Ayes have it. 3, are there any declarations of interest? Does anyone have anything to declare? No? Okay, so that's that taken care of. Item 4 is the confirmation of the last meeting, the minutes on the 23rd. I'm happy to move. Second, Anna, your turn. Yeah, Councillor Cox. Okay, getting through it nice and quickly.
Just, Chair, before you do move on, a question for a governance potentially about the absences. Both Deputy Mayor Angela and I were absent for on council business, but it doesn't state that there, and I wonder whether that's something that is common practice not to do, just to note absences.
Apologies, that should have been captured and we'll amend that.
Thank you very much.
Right, so we're happy to add that in, okay. That was item 4, wasn't it?
If we could just vote.
Oh, all those in favour? Aye. Ayes have it. Now, item 6 is going to be presented by staff member Robin Denton. Oh, sorry, Liam. Sorry, I hadn't taken that. Sorry, Liam, where are you, mate? Yeah. Would you like? First. Yep. Would you like to come forward and give us your bit?
This one was St Andrews.
This one is for the St Andrews Mere Road area.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's a bit later on if that's okay. Yeah, yeah. So,
yes.
5 minutes.
2 slots.
Yep.
But can I just clarify?
Yes.
You want Liam to speak to just the Mayor's Road area, St Andrews, and then when we get to item 7, then come back up?
Sorry, Chair and Amy, we're having real difficulty hearing. It sounds all echo. I don't know if people aren't leaning into the microphone or...
No, it was us not turning on the microphones quite fast enough.
There, so now it's clear.
So Liam is just going to be speaking to item 6 first, and then we'll be coming back to speak on item 7, just so everybody is on the same page.
All right, thank you for that clearance. Sorry about that. You all know who I am. I won't introduce myself. I am firstly speaking on my submission regarding the speed in the area. We all know that lower speeds are safer for the community who lives there and travels through there for work or school. We also know that education comes less injuries and deaths on our road. While my opinion is quite obvious, I believe all residential streets should be at a lower speed, 30 k's, especially around businesses, education units, elderly homes and potential busy areas. With the area being near elderly home, shops and cafe and a busy road, St Andrews, I would definitely recommend in Sport House and City Council to lower the speed and put in a raised crossing. I would also like to see the crossing moved down to opposite the shops, not straight after the road, which was put in the map. Obviously, as I said, I believe that whole area should be 30, but putting in, and I'm seeing you do it with mini speed bumps, which we need to do a bit better, because you put in a cycle lane that starts 10 metres before the crossing and ends 10 metres after. I reckon that area needs a cycle lane because it's a main bus route. And that corner coming around to the shops, past sorry, I'm going to say this wrong, past street on St Andrews, behind the corner, the very busy corner, and it's got about that much of shoulder width. So that's my concern, so I'm not going to say much more, but I do support you, as always. I'm not going to yell at you and give you concerns, but I love what you're doing and keep it up.
Thanks, Liam. Does anyone have any questions? Thanks for not yelling at us as well. I spent 23 years in a marriage of getting yelled at, so anyway.
Not you, Mark.
Thanks, Liam. Nah, all good. Right, Robin, would you like to come to the... got to learn to keep those voices inside your head. Yeah. Good morning, Robin.
Good morning, Councillor Mark. Right, so this paper is for some proposed speed limit changes in two key areas of the city. One is around the Mayor's Road area, which Liam's just spoken to, and that's the continuation of our Safer Speed Area program that's been approved in the 2022 Speed Management Plan, and that's the introduction of permanent 40k speed restrictions. We do have a program coming through later this financial year, but next calendar year, for introducing some more 30Ks in around schools and that sort of thing, so that will be an overlay in the area as appropriate. The other area that we've got speed limit changes proposed is out in Horsham Downs, and that is predominantly lowering speed limits to reflect the residential development that's occurring out on some of those rural roads, where we're getting increased traffic and increased number of people wanting to walk and cycle for leisure in those areas, and ties in with the upgrade work that's currently underway for the Bulman-Horsham area intersection. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Robin. No questions? None on Zoom? Councillor Louise?
Can I just ask a question on Liam's suggestion for 30 kilometres? Is Mayor's Road included in the potential changes further to go to 30? Or would this be changing it from 50 to 40 be kind of it for that area for a while?
That would be it for a while. The program for the 30 is concentrating on schools initially, and around the shopping sort of areas. So there will be in that St Andrews shops area, we've got plans around the 30 there. So the aim is to try and roll out all of those safer speed areas, and then we can come back see how those school areas have gone.
Yep.
And look at expanding them.
Okay, cool.
Councillor O'Leary had her hand up, but she seems to have disappeared. So, okay. Okay, well, with that in mind, I mean, I don't have any more questions. I thought it was a very a good comprehensive report. Thank you for pulling that together, and information as usual, up to a very high standard. So thank you, Robin. So I'm happy to move the
I need a second,
staff
Chair.
recommendation. Yep, seconded by Maxine. All those in favour say aye or raise your hand. Aye. Against? Nay. Ayes have it. Right. Item 7. Now, this is where we are going to do a little bit. This is the submitters.
Yes,
Yes. Right. So I can go in that order. Yes. Okay. All right. Thank you, Amy. Liam, would you like to return to the stand, please?
He'd like to go after a couple of people.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Would is Donna? Yeah, Donna, do you mind going first? Cool. You're familiar with the process here, Donna? No. Oh, okay. So you'll have 5 minutes to speak to your submission, and if you'd like to have some questions at the end, always try and leave a couple of minutes towards the end, just in case any of the councillors have questions. Now, there'll be a timer up on the board here, and there'll be a little bell will go when your time is said to be up, but there's a tiny bit of flex there. So
I'll try and keep it to 5 minutes.
That'll be awesome. Okay, thank you. Welcome to the chamber anyway.
Yeah, thank you for this opportunity to address the council. I have read the Access Hamilton strategy. It states a key role to deliver directly to the council's purpose of improving and wellbeing of the Hamiltonians. I'm a nurse of 40 years, having worked in critical care in the community, including rural support, and I'm a St John's primed trained nurse and first responder when required in a volunteer capacity now. I have seen the results of, car versus pedestrian and other vehicle injuries in my experience. However, I'm here to actually object to slower speed zones, and I'll explain why. My concern is the safety of Hamiltonians getting emergency services in a timely fashion. St John figures as of April 23rd, 2023 are that there are an increase in call-outs by 50%. Of these, there's a 31% increase in mental health and suicide, 20% in breathing problems and 20% in strokes. Chest pain is up 13%, choking's up 15%, but road crashes are 5% and down 1%. Crime is on the increase with more call-outs. I believe there's 827 per 10,000 population, which is quite an increase. FENS attendance is up with more fire staff attending medical emergencies, and we hear sirens more than ever. Now, Wakakatoi's Road to Zero documents state that only 37% of people over the age of 15 take public transport, 31% cycle, and more people are hit by buses than cars, but 81% of death and injury is in 1 to 2 star rated vehicles. Most cars are actually near a 5-star now. Their target 40% less deaths by 2030 is straight out of the UN and the World Economic Forum plans and the sustainable goals, which this council has embraced in its district plan and the Access Hamilton document. The plan states it clearly that the goal, as in the UN and World Economic Forum, is to get rid of cars. The road to zero is actually 0 cars. This is a global road safety plan. Lowering speed limits impacts time management, wallets and the environment by increasing emissions and congestion, wasting fuel and costing people time, which equates to money. In regard to the road design and traffic calming measures, speed bumps, chicanes, raised intersections, rumble strips and fast light changes, there is research suggesting the success of these measures are not suitable for urban arterial streets, particularly in regard to emergency vehicles. I personally have been in an ambulance, which is a truck of some weight, travelling in a timely fashion with a critical care patient, and had to hold on for dear life when a speed bump or pothole appears in the road. The patient moves, the heavy stretcher moves, and the equipment inside the vehicle moves. creating safety hazard as it moves within the vehicle. I challenge any councillor to don a safety vest and ride in an ambulance at speed to a job or to the hospital. It's not a fun ride for anyone. And now with the traffic's calming measures, it could be life or death, mine and the patient's. Imagine being in pain or critically unwell going over all those speed bumps or avoiding all the cycle bollards. No thanks. This seems to breach the Health and Safety and Employment Act. How does the emergency vehicles negotiate this? Would you be happy if it was you? Would you want the police to attend an incident fast or FENS to attend a fire call out at your property? How do you get through the traffic where it's congested and narrowed? There's no emergency vehicle lanes for our vehicles. Emergency vehicles can only go 30 kilometres over the posted speed limit. If that's 20 or 30 k's in the areas, then they have a speed rate of 50 or 60 kilometres only by law. Time is precious. In my profession, time is heart or brain tissue death. The golden window to save somebody's life is 20 minutes. A large study in the US said the main source of delays and congestions are intersections, negotiating corners and traffic hold-ups. All these situations were generally unaffected by speed limits. Another large study showed fuel consumption and emissions were found to be higher in low speed limit, and that of the 3 speed limits, 20, 30 or 50, 60 k's was actually the best performance. Lowering speed limits on roads are not necessarily safer. The highest factor in many traffic accidents is a difference in speeds and the DSI or safety ratings, as I've already discussed. In this large study, it also said that lowering speed limits provided only a 67% compliance. On driving attitudes, it said that the current speed limits are set too low to be acceptable by the vast majority of drivers. Only 1 in 10 had better than 50% compliance. So the posted speed limits make technical violators out of motorists driving at reasonable and safe speeds. The cost of speed limitation plus the influence of travel behaviour and growth patterns are substantial. How can one of the fastest roads in New Zealand, the Hamilton Expressway at 100 and 110 k's, be considered safe and there are not increasing rates of crashes or fatalities, but an arterial route round city with congestion and traffic calming in place needs to be slower? It doesn't make sense. How is Hamilton City going to make it safer for emergency services to get through the traffic without endangering lives? In your access document, it says safety of Hamiltonians is foremost in all we do. We don't believe any loss of life on our streets or roads is acceptable. We also believe that all members of our community should feel safe and be safe. Will Hamilton City Council consider my points raised? Thank you.
Thanks, Donna. You've actually gone over your time a little bit, but thank you for that. Thank you for your submission. Your stats make for an interesting hearing and listening to, so I appreciate you making the effort to come in and submit.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Chair, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I know there's no time for questions. Can we just confirm whether Donna is actually speaking on behalf of St John's or on behalf of FENS or any emergency service formally? I didn't catch that at the beginning.
I'm still a prime trained nurse with St John's, but I don't have a contract at the moment, so it's only I do respond to incidences on a volunteer basis.
Yeah, no, sorry, I was just trying to clarify. Are you speaking formally on behalf of St John's in this submission?
I'm speaking on behalf of a concerned person, and I am a first responder, but I don't have a contract. I'm not speaking on behalf of St John.
No, I took it as independent.
Thank you. It's important to clarify that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay. Thank you, Donna. Liam, are you ready yet, or would you like Phil to go ahead of you? Okay. Yeah. Good morning, Phil. Thanks for coming in again.
Morning, Mark.
I take
Morning,
it
councillors.
We don't need to give you the rundown on how this show works.
No, we're all good.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be 10 minutes up there.
Oh, yes,
So the
exactly.
bell
Yep.
doesn't ring
Phil
earlier.
speaking on behalf of Bike Action Hamilton.
Thank you. Okay, good morning. As you all know, Bike Action Hamilton was started to take direct action in making Hamilton's roads safer for cyclists. Because of the increased driver aggression we faced out on the road, we had to stop that type of action. We do, however, continue to make submissions and speak out on this issue. My submission on speed management reflects my view as a cyclist and as a cycling advocate. In recent months, I have due to running costs and my sanity. The frustration of sitting in traffic does my head in. I would much rather ride my bike and be positively impacted by congestion because it means slower speeds. But that does come with more frustrated and angry drivers who continue to infringe on our bike lanes. I wish council and police would start doing something about that. We fully support all speed reduction plans across Hamilton. We fully support Vision Zero, where any loss of life is unacceptable. In the government policy statement on land transport, one of the 4 strategic priorities is developing a transport system where no one is killed or seriously injured. That one in particular is particularly important to everyone who rides a bike around this city. I've been knocked off my bike a number of times, and the only reason I have not been seriously injured or worse is because they happened at quite low vehicle speeds. The constant threats from inconsiderate drivers and the thought of being hit at faster speeds has caused a significant loss of confidence in my riding. And if my confidence can be impacted like that, it is no wonder there are not as many people riding bikes as there probably could be. The Road to Zero strategy acknowledges that we all make mistakes, but those mistakes should never cost anyone their life. Managing speed is one tool, so that when mistakes do occur, the damage is considerably less. And as I said above, that is amplified for people who ride bikes. I would much rather be hit by a driver at 30 kilometres an hour than at 50 kilometres an hour, although the preference is always not to be hit at all. So while we wait for appropriate infrastructure that properly separates cyclists from traffic, reducing speeds is the main tool for reducing the impact of mistakes. So reducing speed reducing speed actually helps traffic flow better, while also reducing the impact of mistakes. If only that could be presented in a better way to all drivers so they understood and participated in driving slower to assist them getting to their destination faster, given the growing number of vehicles wanting to use the road space at the same time. Drivers get angry and frustrated, not only at the traffic around them, but also at their incorrectly perceived understanding of council's reasons for implementing traffic calming measures. It's not being communicated to them, so they play the blame game, and that is usually angry. I read with interest in the speed management document that there have been 23 fatalities in Hamilton between 2018 and 2022. 2 of those were cyclists, Tim Hope in 2020 and Jessica Mossa in June last year. Then there was the council staff member knocked unconscious 2 days after Jessica's death. Since 2011, at least 7 people on bikes have died on our roads. I have no clue as to how many injuries there have been for cyclists. We owe it to everyone who has died or been injured to ignore the angry, frustrated drivers demanding higher speeds are maintained. We owe it to them that proper educational material is distributed with the facts and realities that speed has. We owe it to them and the younger generations who will benefit from reduced speeds and the increased cycleway projects across the city over the coming months and years. That vital infrastructure for cycling safety is not there to annoy drivers, as some would have us believe. It is there to stop anyone dying. It is there to keep people alive. It is all part of the process so that everyone, especially those who don't have access to vehicles, cannot drive, choose not to drive, can get around the city safely. And for those that see taking the bus as the most accessible mode of transport, that they can get to and from where they are going safely and on time. Transport is complex, but there is one single factor that allows everyone to get home every day alive and well, and that is the speed we drive. Children are much more likely to perceive slower speeds as safer for them, as will parents, and would lead to a potential return to a few decades ago when kids could walk and bike to school. That sentiment is reflected in Te Whatu Ora's written submission through the health impact assessment on speed in Te Awamutu. They also reference research into reducing speed as an incentive for children to use active transport modes to and from school. We support the Disability Persons Assembly regarding road safety campaigns and would like to see those campaigns in partnership with Waka Kotahi and police. I've been calling for this for a number of years around cycling with little results. I really don't understand why driver education around speed and safety are so hard for these organisations, including this council. We support Bike Waikato's submission, who references strategies already in place like Road to Zero, Access Hamilton, along with funded projects like Biking and Micromobility Program, and their recommendation to partner with Waka Kotahi and police with driver education around speed and proximity to both cyclists and pedestrians and sharing the whole road space. We all know that drivers don't like being held up and consider reducing speed, road safety platforms, in-lane bus stops as causes of congestion. That fallacy needs to be properly addressed. It is actually the growing number of vehicles that causes congestion. Council has the data and evidence of what causes congestion and how speed is associated with that. So why isn't Council putting out the facts about why speed reduction is vital for everyone's safety and is actually a benefit to everyone? All councillors have available to them data that clearly shows the facts. By not properly providing good messaging to drivers, you are creating the backlash and playing into the hands of the nutter conspiracy theorist nonsense. From a cycling perspective, reduced speeds are vital wherever there is insufficient space to put in fully separated bike lanes. The damage caused to a cyclist at 50 kilometres per hour is far worse than the damage caused by a vehicle being driven at 30 kilometres per hour. That's a no-brainer. Changing speeds is something Council can do very easily, and it will make an immediate difference, while the planned cycleway projects are progressively rolled out over the next 20 years. So Bike Action Hamilton fully supports amending the speed management plan as proposed. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. Don't see any questions in the chamber at this point in time, so thank you for your submission as usual.
Thank you.
Always on point and concise. Thank you. Right, third time's a charm. Liam. That's all right, mate.
Hello again. Today I'm speaking on the speed management plan. Firstly, I want to say that I use the City Central every day, whether I'm going to meet someone for a socialising event, coming to council to make a submission, or going to meet someone to go for a ride every Wednesday night, as we do, called Bike Night Hamilton. I use the Main Street, Victoria Street, Mill Street, and Alta Street. I am speaking, I feel like it should be 10 minutes. I'm speaking with Radio Track.
You get 5 minutes here and 5 minutes with the other one.
Sorry.
Separate.
Sorry. And I say I use Victoria Street, Mill Street, Alta Street. But every street I use, I can't feel safe. There are no bike infrastructure, there's no speed bumps to slow drivers down, and there's no infrastructure anywhere outside of the main Victoria Street from the bridge to Anzac Parade. That's the only bit that I feel safe and comfortable to ride in. Now, I know, as all council says, we can't budget it, we can't afford it. We can afford some signs, some paint to say, go 30k. And I did a study about this on an event called Climathon, where we had to come up with an idea and decide what would improve the climate in Hamilton. And our idea was go 30k because why not? And I know it won't happen all across Hamilton, but why not in the Hamilton Central? We've had, I don't know, I've lost count of how many deaths we've had around the city of drivers going at a ridiculous speed because there's no punishment. And then the second thing is, even if we lower our speed, what are we going to do? Are we just going to put signs up? No, we are going to have to enforce that rule. and enforce it properly. Make it so people can't break it, make it so people get fined if they come into the city going 50 plus Ks. And I know everyone said it will cause congestion, but it will for a bit, and then it will slow down as people learn that cycling and walking in public transport is the better option for that. One more thing that I've been asked to say from a friend in our accessibility group was we thank Council for their continued commitment for making Hamilton more accessible to people with access needs. We support additional mobility parks in central Hamilton. These parks make it easier for disabled people to access the community. And we also thank you for putting in speed bumps as this provides more crossing in our community. Thank you for letting me speak and sorry about that confusion. Thanks.
No worries. Thanks, Liam. No questions online, none in the chamber. Thank you for your submission, Liam. Much appreciated. Jordan Jamieson. Hi, Jordan. Jordan, are you familiar with how this all works? Yeah. Okay, cool. Welcome to the chamber. You've got 5 minutes. Cool. If you want any question time at the end, just leave a little bit for us to quiz you, but the floor is yours.
Thank you. Tēnā koutou katoa. I'm Jordan Jamieson, and I work as a mental health professional for Parent Line. And
who was that for, sorry?
Parent Line.
Parent Line.
Yeah. And a school counsellor at Forest Lake. I live in Hamilton East on the intersection on the corner of Fox and Cook Street. And we're here today in support of the coming speed changes to Hamilton. We believe such changes will help to reduce dangerous driving, slow traffic down and create more safety in the community and reduce the number of near misses, collisions and injuries and fatalities. But in order to do this, we need to, definitely change the environment. We need to use interventions that will ultimately change driving behaviours, such as more road signage, roundabouts, narrowing of roads where necessary, and better monitoring of high-risk areas. One of these high-risk areas happens to be the intersection on which we live. We bought the property on the corner of Fox and Cook Street in September 2022. Currently, the traffic on Fox Street is used as a thoroughfare, especially at rush hour, because Galloway Street and Waiwere Drive both have traffic lights on them. There are also 2 bus stops very close to the corner of Fox and Cook Street intersection where the issue is actually occurring. Since living here, we immediately observed a number of driving problems at the intersection. Talking with our adjacent neighbours at the intersection, it appears the issues have been ongoing for a long time and have gotten worse as well. In addition to the time we've lived here, apart from the number of frequent near misses, we've also witnessed 2 accidents at the intersection. The first one was on Monday, the 20th of February. A driver didn't stop. It hit a car and drove through our fence, which was a pretty scary thing to witness. On Monday, the 15th of May, a driver did not stop and collided with a motorcycle. We have set up cameras and we have multiple video footage of cars driving through at high speed, and we have evidence as well as logbooks of all events, as well as police report numbers of these events. We've witnessed frequent drifting and burnouts, almost daily occurrence, and can provide video evidence and police reports of all these events. These events, we also believe, occur in greater numbers on wet days, as we believe racer boys talk to each other on social media, and we've seen a real uptick in the dangerous driving around wet days. The events have been going on so frequently that we have ceased reporting them because of the impact to our mental health. And between the 14th of January and 15th of May, I think we captured and documented a total of about 23 separate dangerous driving incidents during the hours that we were home. Many of them pertaining to speeding through the intersection at high speed without stopping. So the impact of this, we're seeking a preventative solution, not a reactionary one. Enough has occurred to warrant this. We do not want to wait until someone is killed by a dangerous driver before action is taken. There are available solutions and we want to fix this problem. Risk and impact to the community extends to the pedestrians walking their dogs or waiting for the bus nearby, children playing in the garden nearby and sometimes running out into the road, which we've seen, noise pollution from speeding cars as well as the burnouts and the drifting, loss of sleep and impact to our mental health, and the stress of further collisions and loss of life on ourselves and our neighbours. We have been in frequent communication with Gordon Naidu, the City Transportation Unit Director, who's given us the opportunity to be here today, so thank you, Gordon. We've had several meetings about the incidents that are occurring and would like support to reduce the speeds and to support the reduced speeds initiatives at our intersection to make it safer for our whānau, our tamariki, our hapu and iwi, that use this road as a bypass between Clyde and Naylor Street frequently. We believe if nothing is done, further collisions will occur and we would like to act before it's too late. Ngā mihi.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you for your submission. I don't see any questions in the chamber. One thing I would say, though, is encourage you to continue reporting incidents of bad driving behaviour and whatnot as well, because there's an old saying that data will always lead you to the truth, and if you're not reporting it, then it's not being captured, and hence we can't rely on data. So, yeah, thank you.
Thanks.
Keep forgetting to turn the page over, sorry. Right, Mr. Peter Boss. Welcome, Peter. Thank you for coming in. You won't require any
thank you.
Hints or tips on how to do this, so it's all yours.
Good morning. I'm here, I'm speaking on item 7, Hamilton's Speed Management Plan Review. I'm speaking in support of the Beta area receiving priority, Beta Street and Beta area receiving priority to become a safer speed area because of the high number of young people walking, biking, crossing the road in this area. Beta has the 7th youngest population of Hamilton's 44 census areas. You do not need to spend much time in the Beta Street area to see young independent children walking, biking in all directions. Many locals wish the speed limit could have been lowered sooner, as it is only by luck that someone in the Beta area has not been injured with all the vehicles travelling through to build the new roads in the Peacock area, on which 226,800,000 has been invested. Please note that the collector roads in the Peacock area are to have a 40-kilometre speed limit. This is the same in the Glenview area. It is only fair that Beta area has the same 40-kilometre speed. I'm concerned that there are people discouraging investment in the Beta area. The NZAA has asked Beta Street to be left out of safer speed investment. City Council planners have redlined the Beta Street area to discourage private investment. We should not need reminding that there is a housing affordability crisis, and Beta area has the most affordable housing in Hamilton. Like most affordable neighbourhoods in the Beta area, there are residents who do not have travel choices because of age and income. It's important that the most expensive travel mode, the single occupant motor vehicle, does not make it feel unsafe to travel by affordable, health-promoting modes such as walking and biking. There is plenty of evidence for the benefit of safer speeds. Before Waka Kotaha lowered the speed limits on all their roads through Hamilton by 20%, About every 6 weeks, a motor vehicle would crash into the wooden barrier at the Beta end of Common Drive Bridge. Most of these crashes had happened off-peak. Since 2021, not once has the wooden barrier been crashed into. This is the magic of safer speeds. In summary, the Peacock area has had hundreds of millions of dollars of investment to give its future residents faster, 60km/h routes out of Peacock area. It's only fair to have some safety benefits overflow into the Beta area from the Peacock spender. Every Hamilton citizen has a right to be able to move safely around their neighbourhood and city, regardless of their income, ethnicity or level of mobility. So I'm asking you to support Beta Street, Beta area being a priority for the implementation of safer speed measures. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Any questions of anyone? No? Well done. Thank you for coming in. I noted your email earlier too, but I didn't have time to digest it properly, but thank you for sending that through. Now we have someone, Vaughan.
Vaughan's just going to come in a little bit late. Can we go to John first?
John Butler? Oh, there he is. Okay. Well, you can choose whichever one you feel comfortable with. Yeah. So, John, you're familiar with the process here of you're talking to item number 7, and there's a 5-minute time frame.
I'm sorry, I've tuned my earphones, but I still can't hear you.
Oh, okay. Are you familiar with the process here?
I have made a submission before.
Okay, good stuff. All right, thank you.
Is there a signal at 3 minutes?
At 3 minutes?
We can do one.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
My name is John Butler. I've lived in the St Andrews area of Hamilton since 1973. In those days, the suburb was being developed, and it needed a guiding advice from the residents. We formed a community group and worked with council and achieved, I think, some important goals. Now, the area that we covered and are considering is Beers Court, St Andrews and Bryant Park. Whatever we say for this area, I think could apply throughout the whole of Hamilton. I made a submission in June 22, the basis of which was many streets in the suburb were rated at 40km/h. The submission said all streets in the suburb should be rated at 40km/h. The reason for this is that the quiet, out-of-the-way residential streets don't really have a safety problem. The busier feeder residential roads, all residents have to travel on, have many more cars, cyclists, pedestrians, and a much higher risk of injury, but they were remaining in our suburb at 50km/h. Resident safety, we felt, had not been taken into account, and residents' health had not been taken into account. We tried this out in a group of Toastmasters, there were 20 present, and we proposed this ridiculous suggestion. At the time, it seemed ridiculous that all roads should be 40. There was a town planner present, and he agreed with our logic. Subsequent to that, we've discussed our reasoning and asked the question in the suburb. Again, there was 90 to 95% of the people we talked to wanted 40km/h. So in the last 2 weeks, we put it to the test. We put out a survey which goes into people's letterboxes. It's a pretty hit and miss system. Some letterboxes are rotten, some are full of paper, but still, 1 in 8 were given a pamphlet which says, what is your preference, 40 or 50? No reasons given, just for safety. In the next few seconds, we put out 70 pamphlets. 23 were returned, either by email or by phone. 17 wanted 40. 3 wanted 50, and 3 said, what's the point? They can't police the streets now anyway. So that's 75% wanted 40, 13% wanted 50, and 13% said, I've given up. Thank you very much for the opportunity to put our position forward.
John, thank you for taking time to come and submit, and good on you for your for taking the time to run a survey too. It's much appreciated. Do I have any questions from colleagues? Nope. Thanks for your time. Do I go back to Vaughan? Or?
Yes, Vaughan's just joined on Zoom.
Okay. Hi, Vaughan. So we'll just bring Vaughan in via Zoom.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Vaughan.
Yeah. Hi. Yeah, everything's happening all at once here at work, and I'm just trying to get up to my volume. Yeah. Okay, I'm ready.
Okay, you've got welcome to the hearing. We'd like to hear your submission. You have 5 minutes to pitch your submission. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi everybody. Hey, it probably won't take me 5 minutes, but it's sort of quite simple. I think you can see my submission written down there, sort of quite basic. Like, I don't mind the speed limits changing on, definitely the residential streets, and I find myself, people do 40Ks, 30Ks on the residential streets anyway, whether it's 50 or not, but everywhere else throughout the city, with the introduction of all the speed humps and the intersections that are tightened up and traffic light changes, that's probably one of my biggest hates of the traffic light changes in the old traffic light system. If you had a intersection where you're going straight through and there was a red arrow to turn right, the red arrow would disappear after about 10 seconds. If there was nothing coming, you could go. Now I find myself sitting in especially on Anglesey Street, turning right into Ward Street, and again over at Claudelands, you're waiting for a whole sequence of lights to go through, and there's absolutely nothing coming anywhere near you. And you could have fitted about like 10 cars through that same, in that same gap, which it just infuriates me when I'm sitting there for no real reason and there's no traffic sitting around. That's what it's doing to me, and I'm sure it's doing it to a lot of other people. It's making me move a lot quicker around town when I can, like between traffic lights, and I'm shooting up really quickly to get the green arrow or orange arrow, just because I know I'm going to have to sit there for so long if it doesn't work. And I'll also go, I'll go to the letter of the law, and I'll go through the orange light, I'll do a U-turn, I'll come back through the other way and turn left on the free turn. And that's, it's all of that system that I think you guys are making to discourage drivers from driving around Hamilton or driving around cities. And I live out in Gordonton. There's no other way that I'm going to bike from Gordonton into town to carry all my gear, and then if I want to buy some groceries on the way home, I can't do that on a bike. And then it takes me another 45 minutes to get home, or an hour. So, these speed limits and intersection changes that you're making just infuriates me. It makes me an angry driver. And I guarantee it's not just me that it's making angry, because I see other cars doing exactly what I'm doing. And I'm copying other cars as well. That's really about it.
Okay, thanks, Vaughan. Thanks for your verbal submission. Would invite colleagues to any questions? No, all clear. Thanks for dialing in, Vaughan. You're welcome to stay online and observe.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I think I will stay online and observe from now. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, good one. Thank you. Right, next up is Bill McMaster.
On Zoom as well.
On Zoom. Good morning, Bill. Oh, we can't quite hear you. Still no volume.
Sorry, Chair, while we're waiting for Bill to get his sound up, Amy, members of the public can't stay in this forum online though, right? They have to log out and come back in through YouTube.
That would be ideal if we could have that.
Otherwise, yeah, elect members just be we can't use the chat forum, yeah.
Yeah, so can we send a message?
Can we do that, please?
Yeah.
When you're
Absolutely.
Thanks, Chair. Thanks, Amy.
Oh, we've just... I believe Bill is just going to dial back in a moment.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Because he's just dropped off.
Okay.
Do you want to adjourn for 5 minutes?
Yeah, can we, what I'm going to do is just take a quick adjournment for 5 minutes, stretch your legs, grab a coffee, and then once we've got the IT sorted, we'll come back and kick it off. Welcome back, everyone. IT issues have been resolved, and we will kick back on. I hope everyone had a chance to stretch their legs and grab a coffee. Now, welcome in, Bill. The floor is yours. You've got 10 minutes. Yep, you've got a 10-minute slot. So away you go.
Good morning, and thank you very much, Mr. Chairman and councillors, for the opportunity to present the AA submission today. So, just by way of background, my name's Bill McMaster. I'm the chairman of the Waikato District Council of the AA, and we have appreciated being considered a key stakeholder in the development of the Hamilton City Speed Management Plan and having early involvement in that part of it. So apologies not being able to be there in person for you today, and for the technology issues at my end before. Mr. Chairman, I'll take our submission as read, but I would like to highlight a number of points, if that's okay, in the submission.
Please do.
Firstly, I'd like to highlight the strong support of the NZAA to Hamilton City for the development of the Speed Management Plan. We do strongly support what Hamilton City is seeking to achieve by way of speed management across the city, and our submission is broadly supportive of the plan. Where we have made a few comments, we are hoping that might strengthen the plan in some aspects to it. So just to touch on some of these points, Mr. Chairman, we do support the 8 speed management principles that have been highlighted, and we believe they are sound, but we would perhaps just suggest that there could be another couple of principles that could be brought into the plan, and one is where we have strategic arterial routes in the city, the speed and function of those routes should be retained, and maybe a high-level principle just to highlight that. And we would just refer to our previous submission to you on the lowering of the speed on Wairoa Drive, Karewa Place, where it's gone from 80 to 60, where we didn't think that was a particularly good move at that time. A further principle that we believe, and we'll touch on that perhaps a little bit further, is that a principle around ensuring that the public are sufficiently informed when a new speed limit comes into effect, so that people can modify their behaviour accordingly. And thirdly, Principle 8, we believe, could be expanded to touch on the reference to Waikato Regional Council and the relationship of the Hamilton Speed Management Plan to the new requirement of a Waikato Regional Speed Management Plan that the new rule requires. And I think that would just help to clarify the relationship between those two. In terms of the 4 speed management priorities, we believe that they're good. We support those. And we also in our submission just point out to you, which I think we have raised back in 2022, some research that the AA have done just highlighting that when new speed limits come into effect, that the accompanying infrastructure that goes with that should be put in place. And what we mean by that is good signage, road marking, things like the raised speed platforms to indicate to people that they're actually entered into a new lower speed area. That's been highlighted again in a piece of work that Dr. Sam Charlton has recently been done for the AA, talking about adapting to speed limit changes. And that has only just recently been completed, but it's looked across the country where new speed limits have come in and looked at what actually happens when they're introduced. And so that's quite a handy piece of work, and we're very happy to share that research with you. The report, I think, is just out or about to come out. Safe speed priority areas, we do support the priorities that are in the plan, the likes of Hyde Ave. Bader Street, we do support, and I did hear Mr. Boss's submission just before. Bader Street, I think the population there does warrant it. We do probably just highlight that Bader Street is also a key entrance into the new Peacocks housing area, and that we need to make sure that we are protecting that entrance into Peacock. The Safe Schools program, we strongly support what council is doing there, introducing 30 kilometres an hour, and we support that, and our earlier submission does support a strong emphasis on priority around schools. What we do submit is, and we note in the plan that you've got a mix of fixed speed limits and variable speed limits. We would just emphasise that, particularly on strategic arterial roads where a school is located, that variable speed limits are used so that they go back up to a higher speed outside of school times. We've touched on the accompanying roadside infrastructure. We would encourage council to continue to put signage and good information out, and put funding aside for that essential infrastructure. Education, again, I think there's lots of ways that council can educate the public in terms of speed limit changes, things like low-cost temporary core flute signs in areas where the speed has changed, so that people are aware that the speed has changed in that location. And just the final point we'd make is that where a significant change is proposed, that we would seek that Hamilton City consult on those changes so that the public and organisations can have an input into that. One such as Wairere Drive, which is a key route, that where changes on those sort of roads are being proposed, that a public consultation process is done. But just in conclusion, Mr. Chairman, thank you again. We think it's a good plan. We applaud you going forward and hope that these sort of suggestions that we're making can be taken into account. Thank you.
Great stuff. Thank you, Bill. Thank you for your submission. Deputy Mayor Angela O'Leary has her hand raised in Zoom land. She may have a question for you.
I do. Thanks, Chair. Thanks. I have two questions. Thanks so much, Bill, for your submission. Just one point you said right at the end, I think, in terms of lowering the speed on Wairere Drive. We did consult on that, and we got an overwhelming amount of responses back saying don't lower it. But then, unfortunately, politicians got in the way, and that was the outcome.
Yeah.
Bill, I'm a long-term member of the AA, so I'll just declare that for the room. How many? Two questions. How many members are roughly in the Waikato area that AA represents?
It's in the order of about 70,000.
70, okay. 70. Okay. Wow. Okay, that's cool. Thanks, Bill. Now, your main membership is driver of cars, and you will be, I'm sure you'll be aware of some of those drivers being very vocal on councils around the country, including us, slowing down any part of their journey. As chairperson of AA Waikato, can you give us some thoughts on why that is, and if that's different to your membership base of drivers?
Yes, well, I think thanks for that. Two excellent comments and appreciated. I think whilst the NZAA represents the motoring public, I think at the national level of AA, there's a recognition that the AA, from a sustainability perspective, should be moving more to a mobility-based organisation, and a strategic plan has been developed in the last few months where the move from the motoring public to a mobility focus is taken into account. And we recognise that a large number of our members are also walkers and cyclists, and we need to make sure that we're representing the whole of our membership. And I think at a national level, and I am a part of the National Council as my role as chair of the Waikato, we've had quite big discussions on speed management, and we definitely support speed management going forward. I think the views of the wider membership will range quite a bit. There will be some that will be opposed, some that will be supportive, and I think at a national and a Waikato level, we try and strike that middle ground so that we're trying to represent the membership of the organisation across the broader range of it. And to help that, the organisation undertakes a lot of member surveys to try and gauge the view of the membership. And you might have seen that come out from time to time.
I've entered into many surveys. a brilliant magazine. Thank you very much, Bill. Excellent answers. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Bill, and thank you, Deputy Mayor Angela. That was a great question. Councillor Maxine Van Oosten.
Thank you, and thanks, Bill, for the work you do on behalf of motorists and other mobility users. And 70,000 is a considerable number of members, and so I hope that councillors can see the weighting of that. I was interested in your comment with regard to variable speed limits around schools, and wondered if you also thought that that should be as around our retail and marae areas where there is equally groups of people at various times, and interested in exploring why you thought a variable was more appropriate than simply keeping fixed speed at 30 at those places. Thanks.
Oh, thanks, Councillor, for that question. Yes, I think we would certainly support other high pedestrian use areas to have variable signage where perhaps there's a predominant flow of pedestrians at a particular time of day. I guess the schools one, particularly on the more highly trafficked routes, strategic routes, our feeling there is that for those off-peak, outside of school, children come to school in the morning and in the afternoon, and particularly at night and on the weekends, those routes can revert back to a higher speed limit. I know the fixed speed limits around schools like Hamilton West School and a lot of schools in Hamilton like that it makes sense that a 30k permanent sign would make sense there. But no, we would certainly support where around marae, shopping centres, if there's times outside of those shopping, 8 till 5, when those shopping areas are closed, it could well have a variable sign to allow the speeds to go higher after those hours.
And you don't believe that it might be confusing or add additional confusion to drivers at all?
No, I think the mix of the fixed versus the variable, I think there'll be a logical sort of outcome for that. I think a lot of the schools that are in residential areas are permanently fixed 30 kilometres an hour will work, but some of those shopping centres and so forth that might be on more higher speed routes, I could see that a variable speed sign could work there as well.
Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Max. With that, I will call... thank you, Bill. Thank you for your submission. And now I'll call Melissa to the... what do we call that, Chair? The guest speaker chair. Has it got a name? Yeah. I want to say hot seat, but it sounds sort of inappropriate. So, yeah.
Sorry, I'm just waiting for the time so I can. Thank you. Morena councillors, thank you for having me here, as always, speaking on behalf of Bike Waikato. So happy to say that we're broadly supportive of the principles in the speed management plan. So I'll just be going over the principles that we would like to see more out of, and then a brief comment at the end about what effect I think this might have about people's ability to travel around the city. So very happy to see that the principles are reflecting the commitments of Access Hamilton and Road to Zero, so it really is bringing consistency across all of those strategies. Principle 2, which states, where there are high numbers of people walking, biking, and crossing the road, the speed environment will be 30 k's an hour. Happy for this, but I think in addition there should be an additional principle or sub-principle of that the speed environment on key cycling routes, as outlined in the strategic network plan, will be 30 k's an hour. So essentially taking a more proactive approach to those cycling and walking routes, because we know that demand for cycling and walking is currently suppressed because people don't feel safe using those modes of transport around the city. So waiting for those high numbers to be there before the speed limit is lowered, when we know that a high speed environment is what makes people not want to go to those spaces, is kind of a self-fulfilling loop in that sense. So while we do think that there should be a provision to lower the speed limit where there are high numbers of people walking and cycling, we should also be proactively lowering the speed limit on places where we want people to be walking and cycling. And that would apply principally to roads with on-street bicycle infrastructure, like, bike lanes and stuff like that. With regards to off-street bicycle infrastructure, there might need to be more consideration given to the degree of separation between cyclists and motor traffic, the number of crossings along that route, and noise pollution to decide what the appropriate speed limit would be in those cases. For Principle 3, it states residential roads will be constructed for a 40 km/h speed environment. We believe that this should be changed to a 30 km/h speed environment. This is consistent with the One Network framework that was outlined in the plan that states that local streets should have a speed limit of 30 k's an hour. And it also reflects that the likelihood of surviving an impact with a car at 30 km/h is significantly higher than an impact at 40 km/h. I will reiterate or state that I have studied physics. I have a degree in physics, so I did do some calculations on this. And with a 33% increase in speed from 30 to 40, there's a 77% increase in the energy involved in a collision, and the likelihood of death increasing by 400%. So I think that that's to illustrate that the risk to pedestrians and cyclists rises much faster than the speed rises. And so that small increase in speed, I don't think is worth it when we look at the risk that poses to people outside of cars. I note that the principles of Access Hamilton speak to safety, inclusivity, accessibility, and not the ability for citizens to travel as fastly or as conveniently as they want. So we should focus on that safety aspect instead of that compromise that I think is being put in the plan with that 40 kilometers versus 30 kilometer speed limit. Principle 5 states existing roads may be upgraded appropriate to their function. We think that you guys should make a commitment to will be upgraded appropriate to their function. And we don't necessarily expect the way that you're going to do that to be outlined in this plan, but we think you should take a commitment to definitely upgrading them instead of maybe upgrading them. We also note later in the plan there was a mention of educational campaigns, and we definitely support this and would like to see more of that, whether that's council alone or council in collaboration with other organizations such as New Zealand Police and Waka Kotahi. And that's something that Bike Hamilton would be very happy, Waikato, sorry, would be very happy to support. And lastly, I wanted to comment on the difference between maximum speed, or the speed limit, and average speed. I only just arrived, so I didn't hear any of the other submissions, so I don't know if anyone has spoken to this, but I believe, or I understand that there's a perception that lowering the speed limit means that people are definitely going to take longer to get to where they're going. And I think that this is a assumption that comes from thinking that you're always traveling at the speed limit. So that if the speed limit changes from 50 to 40 or 30, then you're traveling that much slower. But the thing that actually affects how long it takes for you to get somewhere is your average speed. And your average speed is affected by the amount of time that you spend stopped, for example, or negotiating with other vehicles, giving way, and that sort of thing. So you actually spend a significant amount of time when you're driving slowing or stopped, for example, at traffic lights or at intersections where you're giving way. And you can actually see this really clearly if you're navigating with Google Maps, for example. At the end of your trip, it will tell you what your average speed is. And for example, I drove home once along Wairiri Drive, which is 80 kilometers per hour, at least it was at the time that I was driving on it. And I come home and my average speed was actually somewhere between 50 and 60 because of the amount of time that you spend stopped. So the message that I want to put across with this, because this is something that comes up a lot when I was studying physics, is this sort of contradiction between these two ideas, is that the speed limit lowering is not necessarily, and I don't think it will to a large degree, actually increase people's travel time, because for the most part on our 50 kilometer per hour roads, people are not traveling at 50 kilometers per hour. They're traveling closer to 30 to 40 kilometers per hour on average across their whole trip. So lowering the speed limit to 30 or 40 is actually closer to their average speed and is not going to significantly increase the amount of time that they spend on the road. So that's a great win because it also makes the road environment much safer for people walking and cycling. So in conclusion, we're broadly supportive of the plan. We think that those three principles that I outlined should be strengthened, and we want to put across that we don't think this is going to have a significant impact on the way that people in cars are traveling across our city. Thank you. Kia ora.
Thank you, Melissa. Just for clarity, for what were the 3 points that you highlighted again? Was it in the principles, or was it 3, 6, and 8, or was it?
2, 3, and 5, and those are outlined in our written submission as well.
They are. That's right. Thank you.
In case they need to be referenced.
Yeah. 2, 3, and 5. Thank you. Now, I'd invite colleagues to ask any questions if they have any of Melissa. She's normally pretty good with her submissions. Covers a lot of information. So none at this point in time. So thank you for your submission as usual. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
All right. Have a great day. Okay. So that concludes all of our submissions, from my understanding. Am I correct? Yes. So now we'll invite Robin back into the that seat on the left. We'll call it that seat and that seat. How about that? Yeah. So at this point in time, colleagues, what I would invite you to do is ask questions of Robin for clarification, but also bear in mind that we are looking for we're looking to provide some direction as well. So keep that in mind with your questioning, and I will kick off with Councillor Louise.
Thank you. Just reading through some of the written submissions from the organisations presented. This is page 174. Acon Glass Limited had quite a few comments about Naylor Street and their concerns around safety, but I noted that in their submission, they would like council to respond to this feedback. I was just wondering if we had provided them with a response.
So we will be responding to all submitters,
okay,
but only once we've gone through the the Infrastructure and Transport Committee, so that we can provide them with what council direction that council has given us at that stage.
Okay, so that's September.
Correct.
Okay. Just looking at their submission, I guess my interpretation of it is it certainly ties into the speed management plan, but that perhaps maybe it's a request that's been put through as. Are we able to just also log it as a request for?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make sure that, because a glass tint company giving feedback I thought was quite exciting, you know. We expect our regular transport stakeholders to do it, but a glass tinting place, that's great. If I think of other questions, I'll.
Microphone on. Deputy Mayor Angela, would you like to ask your question?
I just have 2 questions. The first one is we heard from, and it's in a few written submissions as well, but we'd heard from 2 speakers today, Robin, around updating the plan with, instead of saying that associated infrastructure may, when we change the speed, may also be included, that we need to make a firmer commitment. Are we able to, that obviously comes with planning, financial planning in our budgets. Are we able to have an understanding of the financial impact of that, or if you've already looked at that and are planning to make that change? I know we're not deliberating today, so.
Yes, so we have been, in conjunction with this work, doing some planning for the long-term plan and the low-cost, low-risk programs. So I can include information in the committee report that shows how those two go hand in hand, Deputy Mayor. Okay, great, thank you. And then my final question is, I sent an email, we had submitted Jordan Jamison today, and he has contacted me, he's on the corner of Cook and Fox Street, and I've sent the committee members some incredibly disturbing videos of his concern as his intersection, but his street's not specifically under here, but under the residential component of the plan, that will go down to 40 though, won't it? Yes, so at some stage, we can, for elected members, we've got a number of people who've identified specific locations that they're interested in. So for the report, we can pull those out and identify where they sit timing-wise in the current plan. Okay, and then again, I guess what I will be interested in looking at is it's clear that in some of these really bad areas, just putting the sign up, which is responding to what some submitters are saying, is not going to be enough. So I'm interested in what infrastructure measures we could also do for some of those specific streets that you've highlighted, and for me, Cook and Fox Street is definitely one of those. Thank you. I'll be looking for that. Thank you. Yeah. Thanks, Chair.
You're welcome. Councillor Anna Casey-Cox.
Just a quick question or a reminder perhaps on how we consult with the emergency services around speed limits, just based on the submitters.
So they are we give them a heads up that we're consulting on the speed limits as part of the speed management plan development. Then when we go out and actually look to implement the speed limit changes, we're also consulting with them then as well.
Okay, and in the past, I guess, has the feedback been generally supportive of the direction of council, or?
It's very much a site-by-site feedback, if we get feedback. And so Crosby Road, for example, was one where we were looking at putting a lower speed limit, and we did a lot of work with FENZ there because they've got they've got a depot there, a station there, and so yeah, we need to work with them around that. So we also involve them in our meetings where we're developing the proposals on the sorts of treatments that we're doing at our intersections, such as, you know, what we've just put in, for example, at Tristram Anzac. So yes, we do try and keep them involved with that.
Cool. And just a quick question in regards to the suggestion by Liam for a 30k limit in the CBD. Is that something that we have considered as council?
So the plan has within it a longer term plan, and certainly there is the proposal to extend the extent of the 30k within the central city, but to go hand in hand with development as that changes those environments.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Anna. Councillor Maxine.
Thank you, and thanks, Robin. Lots of work going on here. I noted that some of the submitters talked about wasting money or referencing the cost of that. Can you just quickly go over what obligation that we have in putting these changes together, and what cost might be involved with maybe some of the signage changes or other, I think, education that we might have for drivers as different speed limits are introduced, etc.
So I can certainly include in the report some information on the process we use. We do, as part of rolling out new speed limits, attach bright yellow call float signs to the new speed limit signs to try and raise awareness of those speed limit changes. So they're up for generally 3 or 4 weeks, along with other advertising, but I will include some information in the report on that.
Thank you. And there's a wide variety of, depending on the kind of technique that you use. Is that right?
Yes, definitely. Certainly, you know, if there's a community such as schools and that sort of thing, we use the various forum that we can. So we're planning for our school rollout, for example, and we will see the schools as being a really key media opportunity to spread that word through their wider community as we move forward. So it varies on the location depending on whether we've got a targeted community group that we can work with, such as a school or a village or something like that. So we vary the techniques depending on where it is.
Thank you, and thanks for mentioning schools. Bill talked about some schools being in a more high or more arterial kind of roads, and where we would challenging us to use variable speeds. Can you also in that report identify what schools they might be and whether there is reasonable opportunity to vary the speeds depending on the time of the day, and whether that is in fact a good tactic to use?
Yes, happy to do that. Briefly, that is our intention, is to carry on using the variable speed limits on those key arterials like we do currently. And we've been working hard to get the technology ready such that it is a change in the sign, the information on the sign. But as noted in the discussions, there's opportunities certainly around Marae, we believe. And that's one of the key additions to the speed management plan is to start working with the Marae and looking at what their needs are for different speed limits at different times of day, depending on what's happening.
Thank you. That's all from me, Chair.
Thank you, Maxine. Now, just before we go to you, Councillor Louise, I've got a couple of questions. So, Robin, if you can just indulge me, I love data, but I also love good cliches as well, but I'll come to that secondly. In the data that we collect, just for clarification, like I'm a big fan of the one source of truth situation. We've heard many submitters today give us data.
Mm-hmm.
Are we all pulling it from the same place, or is it coming from here, there and everywhere? With it just putting it into simplistic terms, my apologies.
No, I think there's probably some sayings around what you can do with statistics.
Yeah.
You can generally find something that supports your cause.
Yeah, just a reminder, you're talking to a salesman who used a lot of statistics to get things across the line, so yeah.
Yes. So I guess we are trying to use data that we're comfortable with the source and
Yep.
how it applies to Hamilton. So we've got data around the crash reductions, the injury reductions as a result of making changes to key intersections
Yeah.
and to wider areas. We've got data on the speed reductions that we've achieved in those areas as well. So they're the sort of key data sources. But recognising that there is very good international expertise. Yep. We're not the first country to be pursuing the lower speeds and trying to gain the safety benefits that provides, as well as the advantages for people who want to walk and cycle.
Yeah, so in our reports and whatnot, are we like identifying the source, like this data has come from XYZ agency, or
yes,
this? Yeah, yep. Okay, that's good. Great, thank you. And then the next question I had was, in terms of cul-de-sacs and thoroughfares, is there any weighting placed on speed reductions on those types of streets? Like, for example, a cul-de-sac is more likely we're going to find, hopefully, you know, kids playing cricket or football or whatever out on the, dare I say it, but on the road. Yeah.
Yes, so we've basically, with the program, we've tried to look at logical areas. And so I think it was Mr. Butler talked about the fact that we've got some of those collector streets staying at the higher level, but we've certainly tried to bundle them up so that you get a logical grouping of streets together too.
Yeah.
Certainly, if there's just a short cul-de-sac off a major road, we'll quickly try and pop that in as well.
Okay. Awesome, cool, thank you. That answers my questions, thanks. Thank you for your patience, Councillor Louise.
Just reflecting on some of the comments from the submitter from Bike Action Hamilton, who was quite critical about some of Council's comms around a wider corridor around what we're doing in the transport space. Just wondering if it was possible to put into the report, maybe pointing to how this might flow into wider comms campaigns that we could be running, and if we're not running any, maybe say that.
Yes.
I'd be quite interested to understand, and I've mentioned this previous times as well, but just around how we're communicating things out to the public, both at a macro scale, but also when we're pointing down to specific things like a speed management plan change.
Yes, we can certainly include something.
Cool, thanks Louise, good. No more questions. So I think that satisfies that section of the meeting. Thank you, Robin. Thank you for your report.
Thank you for the guidance.
Yeah, and thank you for the good work that you continue to do. It's very much appreciated to you and your team.
Could we just have a mover and a seconder to receive the report?
Okay, I'd like to move the report. I'd like a seconder if possible. Councillor Louise. Yeah. Well, and all those in favour? Aye. Ayes have it. Okay. So now we go, and I'm going to put my glasses on so I can see. Item 5.
Item 5.
Right.
A lovely gentleman to come
Yep. So, Dilip, are you familiar with the process here? Excellent. Okay. Well, the floor is yours.
Kia ora koutou, ko Dilip toku ingoa. Thank you for this opportunity. This is regarding the proposed bus stop outside my house at 51 St James Drive. I will address the following issues: lack of consideration for our privacy, multiple safety issues, and bus stop spacing being at a very minimum recommended for a city centre. I'd just like to talk about, if you go to the next slide, please. So I haven't timed this, but I have a snip in my submission from the Waka Kotahi guidelines, clearly showing that privacy is important. I very much support improving public transport, but privacy of residents can also be considered. So the initial proposal places the bus stop directly on my front door. And this shows that there's been no consideration for those guidelines. After the submission, it was moved 2 to 3 metres back, and while I appreciate the small gesture, it does not address the issues. So could you just go back one, please? So this is a picture of our house. It's more recent and provides a larger context than the picture of our hedge in the agenda. We do have a hedge, but our home is elevated, so due to the bus height, the passengers in the bus will be directly aligned with our large window. This window is taller than myself, and so it's about 2 by 3 metres. And you also notice there's a steep driveway and one of the blind bends. So, next slide, please. This is the bus stopping at the existing stop across the street. Passengers can see directly in, and it is quite invasive despite the tree that doesn't have leaves most of the year. So you can imagine if it's closer to us, the passengers will have a much clearer view of our lounge. Thank you. Next slide, please. So addressing the safety issues. So there's a blind bend on both sides of the house, and the stop is very close to my steep driveway, and I have to reverse onto the driveway and look at that. There is a traffic calming bump, but cars accelerate and reach full speed by the time they reach my house, and my neighbours and I have had many close encounters. There's a bus stop directly opposite, and we can see cars when they're trying to overtake the bus, which is very common, and this is quite dangerous for oncoming cars and pedestrians on the double blind bend. There has been an accident there in the last 5 years. I've spoken with the group of neighbours, and they all agree with these points. Okay, next slide, please. Or if you could move to slide 12. So regarding the bus stop spacing, this is a modified Google Maps image. It shows that there are stops on either side that are 250 metres and 260 metres on either side. You'll also notice the sharp blind bend at 51 there. When I asked about the close proximity of the bus stops, the response indicated that the stops are 400 metres apart, and this is the maximum according to the Waka Kotahi guidelines, which is incorrect. As just shown there, they're actually 250 metres approximately away, and according to the Waka Kotahi guidelines, this is the very minimum spacing and recommended for city centre and major traffic generators. 400 metres is not a maximum, it's recommended for densely populated urban areas, and in fact, it can be placed up to 800 metres or even more as the recommendation. So removing this bus stop, which I request, please, is well within the guidelines. So that's the very last slide, please. The summary of my points. It's better to be safe than sorry. We feel there is definite safety issues there, and thank you so much for your time. Ngā mihi.
Great, thank you very much, Dilip. Very good presentation. I would invite colleagues, if you have any questions of Dilip. No, none at this point in time. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your patience in coming in. Right, so just hold on a second.
Over to Robin.
Right. Invite Robin back to the chair to my left. Welcome back.
So, elected members, just to try and help work our way through a very big report for all of our parking restrictions this time, we thought that we would just work our way through set components of it, and then we can deal with any questions and vote if you like, and then work to the next one. So just as a heads up, the intended order is to do low cost, low risk first, so that you can consider the submission that we've just had, then work through the SURF program before going to general other parking. So hopefully that helps make things a little bit easier. So we'll start initially with the low cost, low risk program. So the information on this program and associated improvements starts on page 44, and I'm happy to take any questions and may call upon Honor Young from our Active Modes team to help with any specific questions.
I can't see any.
Okay, thank you.
No, Councillor Louise is thinking.
Sorry, in the report, what page is the St James bus stop on in our report of it?
Page, should be page 51, I believe.
Sorry, back in the 40s.
And it starts...
Yeah, page halfway down the page, yeah.
110, yeah.
Just appreciating the submission that we've just heard and the kind of, I always enjoy when someone brings a PowerPoint. I think it's very good to have a PowerPoint. So just wanting to clarify my understanding that, so this is a new bus stop proposed outside this property? But that there were two design iterations where you shifted it a little bit?
Correct. So the route has changed. One of the changes is because of the Poketaha roundabout, so that particularly in this St James area, it's not a loop anymore. So it'll be a through, and therefore needs bus stops on both sides of the road.
Okay. And there's no option of shifting it more than that initial, was it 5 metres?
Yes. Do you want to answer that, Honor? Are you familiar with this or not? Have I put you on the spot? Sorry.
A little bit. That's okay. Yeah, staff did look at the relocation, and they found that this was most suitable just due to the proximity of the crossing and also the opposing bus stop. Safety engineers have also reviewed the positioning in terms of concerns raised of visibility and confirmed that it was a safe location.
Okay. And if we don't approve that one bus stop, what's the implications for the route? Like passengers will then have to get off at one of the either two?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes. So the bus route will still be able to operate. It will be just a greater walking distance for those that would normally choose that stop. So you're correct. There'll be one.
What engagement did we have with regional council around this?
So for all of our bus stops and route changes, we work very closely with the regional council, and that's really critical to make sure that the stops are going to work from a safety perspective for the buses as well. So, locations of trees and those sorts of things. Also, just the route itself or the intersections they come out of and how they operate. So, yes, certainly for any of our bus routing activities, we work very closely with them.
Okay, cool.
And just to add to that, staff did review the route with Waikato Regional Council, one of which is a retired bus driver as well, and identified this location.
Okay. Okay, I'll leave it there, but if I think of more,
Okay, well, yeah, it's a good point you raise. Is it? It feels to me like we're in it feels like a Mexican standoff type situation. Like we've got a submitter who's obviously got some cred behind him, but then we've got this source of truth, so to speak, from the council side of things. So how do we move this forward? Because I feel like we're stuck. That could be could be just me.
I'm happy to move an amendment that we remove this particular bus stop, if I can find the seconder.
Yep, I'll second. Thank you, Ewan.
Okay, so would elected members like to consider and vote on the low cost, low risk component of the report, or do you want to just work through and then vote the whole lot at the end? What's easiest for you?
Just hold fire a second.
That's fine.
I can print for everything at the end.
You can? Yep. Okay. At the end.
At the end?
Yep.
Okay. Excellent.
Yes, you may.
Just in terms of the bus stop, I think I noted in the report that the bus doesn't tend to stop there very long, or how significant a bus stop is it? Is it going to attract in the future a lot more people? Is it, are people likely to linger there a lot?
Yes, I can answer that. So this bus stop, I've been advised, is hourly at the stage, and there is no bus shelter. It will be a sign in the bus cage. The intended use for this particular bus stop is for residents of St James.
So the bus will only stop if there's somebody wanting to get on and off, and it won't it's not at what we call a timing point, so it won't stop and wait there in order to get itself correct on the timing of the schedule.
Right, okay, thank you.
Councillor Wilson? Oh, you're on mute.
Thanks, Chair Mark.
Yep.
I just want a clarification. Am I correct? And is the submitter right? The other bus stop already in the area, or in fact on the same road, is 250 metres away.
Hang on. You're going to have to come to the microphone, or someone's going to have to.
So the proposal is to get two bus stops opposite each other rather than the spacing. So I'm trying to relay somebody else's comments from the back of the room. Sorry.
Yes, yeah, I believe the aim of the project is to keep the bus stops tail to tail. So the existing bus stop that is opposite the proposed new bus stop location.
Yeah, thank you. That, with all due respect, that wasn't my question.
So, yes.
My question was, the other bus stop is 250 metres away. Is that correct?
I don't have the details.
I think it was 250 or 260 or something. Yeah.
I guess, Chair, the reason I'm asking is the submitter has provided a very detailed PowerPoint presentation and measurement.
Yep.
And I'm just wanting to confirm, because I'm assuming, right, that in light of the fact the staff knew that there was this submission, that they would have done the measurements. So I just want to confirm, is the submitter right? Is it 250 metres away?
That is correct. There's a new bus stop proposed outside number 27 St James Drive.
Excellent. So if we were to cancel or remove the one in question, people can get on and get off a bus on the same street 250 metres away.
That is correct.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Ewan. Who was next? Was it Deputy Mayor or Maxine? Deputy Mayor Angela?
I'm just on page 102 of the agenda, following on from Councillor Wilson's question there. There's staff have said that number the new bus stop outside number 27 St James Drive is 250 metres, and there's also on the other side of it a new bus stop proposed at 69 St James that looks like it's about 250 metres away again. Is that correct on that side of the street?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, okay. And then can you just tell me why is tail to tail better? You know, like one bus stop going in each direction directly opposite. Why is that better or more efficient for passengers than whether if it was on the left side of the road at one point and then 250 metres down on the right side at another for another bus stop? Why is it better, or isn't it?
I would say it provides consistency in the number of stops, but also inbound and outbound as well.
But for passengers, is there any marked difference?
The main thing for passengers is that it's easier if they're getting on and off the bus in a similar location rather than in different locations along the route.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Maxine?
Look, thank you. My questions were along much the same line, and I understand that across the road and in the photograph that Dilip showed us, the bus was going in the direction, God, I don't know, but it was on the other side of the road on the existing bus stop. Is that correct?
Correct.
And so the problem that he identified wouldn't necessarily be solved with not putting the bus stop on his side of the street because that situation already exists.
Correct. I guess we're only seeking approval for the new bus stop. We're not discussing the existing one, for clarity.
Thank you. And there is the benefit of having one on each side of the street so that there's consistency. That's what I heard you say.
Correct.
Dilip also was concerned about the blind corner. I did a googly look at the street and can see a raised safety platform. In your view, does that help to slow down the traffic and highlight that the blind corner isn't as big an issue as it might have been without it?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
All good. Thank you, Councillor Maxine. Does anyone else have any other? Oh, Councillor, yep.
Just quickly, so the bus stops that are currently there are 250 metres apart from one another. What's the rationale for having that proximity of bus stops?
From an accessibility standpoint, it is less walking distance, and also it is located near a access way onto that street as well.
Okay. Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Anna. Back to Deputy Mayor. Angela?
I think I've forgotten. Damn it, it was a good question.
Oh.
No, sorry, I've forgotten it.
Okay.
Oh, no, what it is.
She's back.
Number 20, so the other two bus stops that we seem to be focused on this side of the road, outside 27 and outside 69, do we have any privacy issues raised by those residents?
No, there've been nothing raised. We present all of the feedback that we get.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Deputy Mayor. Councillor Louise?
Just because Councillor Anna reminded me, do you know the distance from, there's an alleyway, do you know the distance from the other side of that alleyway or that, whatever you want to call it?
the walkway?
Yeah, walkway. That's words today.
Yes. So the distance, sorry.
Like from whatever, is it a park on the other, like got the walkway
Through to Coleraine Drive.
Just
no.
curious about where there would, like if people are going to use that walkway to access that bus stop, that would be right outside the end of it. Like how long is that walk through there? I'm just thinking about a wider catchment of people potentially using it.
Yes, the walkway is about 250 metres, I understand, through to the walkway itself.
Okay. Okay, cool.
Cool, okay. No more on the board, no more in Zoom, so...
Okay, so I'll now move through to the surf program.
Thank you.
So this starts in page 54 of the report and includes a number of different sites and happy to take any questions for those sites.
Yeah, sorry, I wonder if it's time just to remind the committee that this is not to relitigate the surf project, that this committee doesn't have authority to do that anyway. Or maybe I've just done that.
Thanks for that reminder, Angela, Deputy Mayor. Yeah. So we're still here to provide or ask questions of staff and provide feedback.
Oh yeah, because it's technical based on the legal road changes that this committee's been required to, not the strategic surf projects.
Yep. No, exactly. Yep.
Further back in the report for low cost, low risk, but I accept if we've moved on and I can't ask it and it's too late.
How is it burning? Like, could it?
No, I could email it to Robin.
Okay, cool. All right, let's go. Let's run with that system. Okay, so in that case, that's.
No questions?
Yep, no questions.
Angela has a question now.
Oh, Deputy Mayor has her hand up.
Sorry. So can I ask a question? I'm a bit confused as to where we are. We're not on parking restriction changes yet, are we?
We're not on the general. We're just trying to work through. If there's no questions about any of the proposals for surf, then I will take you through to the general.
Okay, cool. No, I have none.
Okay. So happy to move to the general stuff.
Yes.
So that's. I'm just quickly trying to scroll up to get to the right page. You should be good now. Thank you. Thank you, Anna. So in under the general parking restrictions, there was a quick update on resolutions and staff actions from the last meeting, a series of changes for mobility to introduce additional mobility car parks primarily in the central city, but also one in Cook Street. And then there are a series of cul-de-sacs that we're proposing to put some no stopping in to allow the rubbish pickup to occur there. And that's about it. So happy to answer any questions on any of those.
Go to Deputy Mayor Angela.
Okay, thanks, Robin. Just page 35, just a request, I guess, / question in terms of the Liverpool Street request this committee made of commuter car parks possibly changing to short-term car parking. I note the report says that staff are to do a survey and come back. I also note that we have had a survey circulated to us, not a staff one, from Colours here, but can we just please make sure when we go out and ask the question, because I think the concern is that when staff went out and engaged, it sort of looked like possibly there might not be as much support to change to commuter car parking, but I note in the paragraph on page 35 and 19 and 20, it says that businesses parking arrangement worked well for businesses sort of basically that aren't affected. But I guess what I'm asking is, can we please make sure that the survey questions that we ask don't just say whether or not they're affected. Sorry, I'm making a complete mess of this. My head's full of coding. And on page 35, in point 20, it says a few business operators stated they're willing to provide their support for more short-term parking if it would benefit a local business operator. I guess that's what I'm asking when we go out and get the survey and then it comes back to this committee, that we're not asking the wrong questions. Does that make any sense?
So I'll try and help you out, Deputy Mayor. So I guess the initial discussions that we had were to try and understand what sort of proposal we could pull forward to then consult on. So I think that we've had enough evidence from our work and from Colours Hair Studio to note that there's, depending on who you talk to, you get some different answers. So we're wanting to do, I guess, two parts to this, is to get an understanding of what people need, and then we'll have to consult on a specific proposal. And what we'll be trying to do is to get some feedback on if there's certain locations within that street that they would like changed, or components of that, so that we can try and pull together a proposal that we can get clear support for change that we can then bring to this committee.
Okay, and thanks, Robin. And in terms of the process and the length of time it's taking, because it could result in a change to that roading network or corridor, there's no shortcuts, is there? We have to go through these proper formal processes.
Correct. We have to, through the Local Government Act, we have to consult on proposed changes, and that's why we need to come up with a proposal on which to consult.
Okay, right.
And depending on what feedback we get, we potentially may need to do some more negotiation before we bring something to this committee for a formal adoption. Yes.
Right, thank you. And then final question, on page 36, just under the improving parking for mobility permit holders in the central city, I was quite surprised after the survey that was done that we would only be creating 8 new mobility car parks. I'm just wondering, it just sounds so low given a quarter of the population lives with some form of disability. So have we tested this against a principle for accessibility in Access Hamilton? Is this work being done outside of that?
What I would say is this is a journey. This is certainly not, the one-stop shop. We continue to try and find locations where we know that there's demand, and that changes as different, shops and services, things like work and income move and that sort of thing. So Ross Trevor Street, for example, is a new location, whereas it used to, when it was in Victoria Street, it had a couple of mobility car parks there. The other challenge we have is trying to find locations that actually are going to work well and be safe. Ideally, they're in a quieter street so that you don't have a lot of traffic going past, so that particularly if you're a driver with any mobility issues, that you've got time to have the door open and get in and out easily. A lot of the streets have traffic moving past very close, and even as an able-bodied person you need to pick your gap and jump in and out. So it's trying to find locations that are going to work well, and then make sure that we also put the infrastructure in so that once you've got out of your car that you've got the ramps or access to a driveway or something like that, so that you can get up onto the footpath without having to do extended lengths. So certainly supportive of putting in more. It's just a matter of working through understanding where the demand is for them and then finding good spots. And this is a start to introducing more.
Okay, so once these 8 bays have gone in, Robin, and this was done as a survey and a result of a survey, etc., and sites chosen. So what's the next piece of work to? I mean, do we just sit back and wait for complaints from the disability community or requests, or are we proactively, as we should be under Access Hamilton, or is that an LTP? It might be an LTP thing, is it?
So certainly there's a couple of things. These are mobility car parks themselves. We do other accessibility work through the low cost, low risk walking and cycling, which we're doing out in the suburbs, and that's trying to get rid of things that may be obstacles for people moving around, and they're things like the lips on cut downs and lumps and bumps from trees and that sort of thing. So we have that work happening as well. But we're certainly always keen to respond to any requests that we get, either through the various advocacy groups, but also direct from any users out on the network as well.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Rob. Chair.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Just a question from me, Robin. Paragraph 32, the parking enforcement team have been informed of requests. They're having difficulty controlling the abuse of mobility parking bays. Is that?
So the abuse of mobility car parks is a national problem.
Oh, yeah.
Totally. So it is something that we certainly trying to respond in a timely manner if somebody has rung up about the problem. And we are looking ultimately to try and get technology to help us out, and that's particularly for working with CCS Disability who issue the mobility cards. We're trying at a national level to have them with a chip in it, such that when we run our LPR car around, for example, that it will know automatically that actually that car doesn't have a right to be there and will pick it up nice and quickly. So that's the ultimate aim. Otherwise, it literally is a matter of a parking officer being able to cite that vehicle. So it's not a simple exercise currently.
Yeah, I guess, and really appreciate your answer. I guess the piece for me is it's where it says more efficient enforcement in the future is like, it's there's probably no magic answer, but is it 6 months, 12 months, 2 years away?
I'm not sure. We could certainly get an update. That's something that John Purcell's working on.
Oh, good.
As part of that national initiative. So happy to get an update for elected members on that.
Yep, that would be excellent. Thank you. No further questions? Okay.
No?
Right.
So if we go to the recommendation, the only change that I have right now is on page 31. Sorry, 30, St James Drive, and the removal of the 4th bullet point, which has been moved by Councillor Wilson and seconded by Councillor Donovan.
Yep.
If I've missed something, please let me know.
And
All right. Thank you, Amy. Thank you for your work with that. Councillor Ewan, would you like to speak to the motion?
Actually, I think just before we do, I'd like to suggest that we put that bus stop back in, if I have a seconder.
My good friend Maxine, you would simply, if it doesn't go through, that's exactly what it gets.
Yeah.
Very well.
You know what I'm saying?
Happy to just leave it there then.
Yeah, it'll revert back to whatever, it'll stay.
Just means that we have to, can we vote on it separately then, rather than as a whole, because otherwise, I'd have to vote against a whole lot of it. And actually there's some really good things in here.
That would make sense. I'm sure the chair will do that.
Yep, we can take it in parts. Yep.
Thank you.
Right.
I'll do that one first.
Okay. So, Councillor Ewan? Yep.
Thanks, Chair. I don't really need to add anything to the debate other than, you know, we've had a submitter who has raised some, I think, legitimate concerns. I've heard the staff's argument. I'm not against buses. I'm not against bus stops. And at the end of the day, we're talking 250 metres. And I think it's a little stubborn of council just simply to ignore someone who has taken the time, has articulated a clear area of concern, to simply say, well, sorry, we think we know best, and we're just going to override your concerns. So I think I think that would be foolhardy, but I'm relaxed.
Well, thank you, Ewan. I would reiterate exactly what you said. I don't think there'll be a stampede in St James Drive of people wanting that bus stop to be put back in should it not be included. So I'd concur with your points. Councillor Hutt.
Thank you. Yeah, I guess I've been quite conflicted on this because, like I alluded to earlier, I think it was a good PowerPoint. But I guess I also just still have some queries around the existing bus stop on the other side and how significantly different a bus stop on the other side would be. I guess I also have a little bit of a frustration, I guess, when sometimes stuff comes to us and it's like you can have this bus stop or you can have no bus stop, rather than kind of some kind of like compromise or other option. Because I know that it is a lot of effort to engage with council as a member of the public, and I don't want members of the public to feel like we're not doing what we can when the requests are reasonable and thoughtful and presented to us without any meanness, for want of a better word, because I think we do see that a little bit. But also, I guess I'm also empathetic as someone with a disability that having a bus stop further apart significantly alters my day. And I don't live on St James Drive, admittedly, but I know how that can really affect people. And like Deputy Mayor Angela said earlier, you know, a quarter of people in Hamilton, or a quarter of people in the Waikato, I believe the stat is, live with a disability of some kind. So, like I said, I've been really conflicted on this. I do think it's perhaps a little bit unfair, Councillor Wilson's framing of it as council being a bit sort of bloody-minded. I definitely want to just reiterate that that's certainly not how I've approached this at all. And sometimes we have hard days at council, and this is just a bus stop, but it feels a little bit like one of those hard days.
Okay, Councillor Maxine.
Look, thank you, and you know, I am really grateful that members of the public can come into council and put their view, and it's critically important that we acknowledge where there's been concerns and look to be able to overcome them. And I think council have demonstrated that by considering Mr. Delete's points and that they have thought about exactly the points that he's raised. It's just not a matter of overriding his concerns, as Councillor Wilson might suggest. There's some great opportunity for bus riders to get off and on at a very similar point. There's a great safety platform for them to be able to cross the road safely in order to be able to do it. It's a 1 hour bus service, and that means that there's only 2 buses going past his home, and that they may not even stop at that point. And in fact, the people that are getting off there are his would be his direct neighbours. And so, I believe that to be able to provide the very best of bus services and to encourage people to use a bus service, that it needs to be convenient. And that means, having a stop near or very close to your home. And I think staff have really considered this when they've considered the stopping points for this route. There's an existing stop right across the road, which hadn't been a problem in the past. And I think that dovetailing that with one on his side is a really good solution. Kia ora.
Thank you, Maxine. Deputy Mayor Angela.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. I agree with Councillor Louise in terms of being conflicted. And I've taken into account actually the overarching exciting thing about this is that this is a frequent fast service for the city, and that's super, super exciting. So my eyes are laser focused on that. However, I listened to what the staff said around the other two bus stops, and with residents being more supportive and not having any issues with the bus stops being located outside their property, and the fact that there are two new ones going in. I just sympathise with the resident, and while I don't think this is material for the service if the bus stop comes out, and I don't really believe it's terribly material for the resident either, and there's not going to be 40 or 50 people disembarking every hour on this bus stop. That would be nice for the service. But on this occasion, I'm going to support the current motion to remove this particular bus stop on this side of the road. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. If there is no further debate, I can give Councillor Wilson the right of reply.
Not required.
Not required. Okay. All right. So the motion is put as per the thingamajig. So yeah.
Can we see the motion just to make sure that we're not pushing the wrong button?
Yep.
I'm constantly paranoid.
Yeah. So all we're doing is taking out 51.
We don't have enough people to.
We don't have quorum. We
No,
do
yeah,
have quorum.
it's
We
online.
haven't set up the. Milena, could you put your card in but please not vote? Thank you. Can you push the vote?
Oh, so we can vote now?
Yes, please.
Okay. Voting has not started.
Two.
All right, Chair Mark, I already voted. You want me to unvote?
Just hold on a second, Councillor Ewan.
Sure.
Wonderful.
Okay.
Go down. Maxine? The motion is carried. No.
What have we got?
Dang it.
So
The
I get to
motion
use
is
my...
not- Yeah, the motion is hung.
So I
Those
get-
on Zoom, we
Mark,
have.
You get to use your vote casting vote.
Yes. The most exciting
Whoa.
time I've had in council for a long time. I will use my casting vote to go with my existing vote. That is for the motion.
The motion is carried, noting that Councillor Donovan has used his casting vote. And then the rest of the items?
Right. Okay. So now we go to the rest. Yep. The big chunky piece. So will the...
Does this make you a proper chair now?
Yeah.
Apparently, something like that. Yeah. So now we're going for the rest of the...
Rest of it.
Yep. So it's highlighted up now, so cast your vote. It's going to be...
Who was the mover and seconder and we didn't debate?
That was still Councillor Donovan, Councillor Wilson and Councillor Donovan moved that one. They did it as a live suite.
So no debate, Chair.
Yeah. Apologies.
Who
Yeah.
hasn't voted? Motion is carried unanimously.
All right. No debate required.
Am I allowed to say I'm excited for more mobility parks?
You may say that.
Said my debate.
Yep. Right. So
That's it.
that brings
That's
the
it.
meeting to a close. Thank you everyone for attending today in person and on Zoom. I really appreciate you responding so positively to being able to attend. Thank you to everyone who came into the chamber today, and I hope the rest of your day is enjoyable. Ka kite. Anō.
Later.